So recently I had to get the brakes of my car fixed because they made this funny noise. So for a few times I was driving and every single time I get to a traffic light or I had to slow down and you will brake just a little bit, it made this extremely loud, funny, irritating noise. And I remember at that time I was kind of like, so embarrassed to give people a ride somewhere because every single time, they will just talk and we'll have a conversation in the car and I had to brake and the brakes made this very irritating noise. Now, I wanted to get rid of that noise. So what I had to do, and the answer here was not to fix the brakes, but I had to replace them. It was called brake pads. I had to replace all the brake pads because obviously there was something wrong because of the funny noise or the irritating noise that it made. Now, in that situation, I couldn't just get rid of the sound because the sound indicated to me that there's a problem. So it's maybe different if your fuel light goes on and you see you're out of fuel. So the answer would be to put in more fuel, right? But I guess you can find the wire that's connected to the light and you can snip it and the light won't be there anymore. And you still won't have fuel, but at least the light wouldn't bother you. Or imagine a fire alarm goes off in a building and you're like, you know what, this fire alarm is irritating me. I'm just going to disconnect it because I don't like the sound. These were all warnings that something is wrong. When your brakes make a funny noise, it's a warning that there's something wrong with the brakes. If your fuel light goes on, it's a warning that you don't have any fuel left. When the fire alarm goes off, it's an indication that there might be a fire in the building. So what is the power of negative emotions? Why can negative emotions be so powerful? It indicates to you that there's a problem. It indicates to you something needs fixing. Now, in our previous session, you guys can go watch it. You guys can go watch the video. We'll put in the link. I spoke about, when you just force positive emotions on something, and that's sometimes what we do when we feel, when there's a negative emotion, we just say, think healthy or think positive or just have a positive affirmation. That's not how it works, because if we use negative emotions correctly and we see them as that alarm, that noise that says, listen, something needs fixing, we can actually use it for our good. Brené Brown said, we cannot selectively numb emotions. When we numb the painful emotions, we also numb the positive emotion. So what she basically says is we need both the painful emotions and the positive emotions or the good emotions to help us in our lives. Again, I want to refer to the law of polarity. Like a battery, it has a positive and a negative side, but both are necessary for the energy and for the power. So we have to learn how to utilize our negative emotions and negative things in life and not just deny it, because if we use them wisely and if we use them correctly, we will see they can guide us, they can help us to deal with certain things, they can help us to fix certain things, and they can actually also help us for the better in our life. This is why you will see some of the most successful people today comes out of very difficult circumstances. My favorite flower, and a few people know this by now, is the lotus flower. Very, very beautiful flower, but it grows in very muddy water, very dirty water. And sometimes some of the most beautiful things comes out of the worst circumstances. That's why it's important not just to put a plaster on it, but to deal with it. Another example I can use is if you break your shoulder, you don't just want to drink a bunch of pain pills and put a plaster on it. You have to go for the operation. And sometimes negative emotions, just like the brakes of the car, just like the fire alarm, is an indication that something is wrong. Something has to be fixed. Something needs to be evacuated. Carl Jung said, the foundation of all mental illness is the unwillingness to experience legitimate suffering. Now, by that, we don't want to, experience suffering the whole time, but we want to take a step back and say, okay, but what does this suffering mean? What can I do with it? How can I deal with it? And how can I, maybe at the end of the day, use it to my advantage? Now, there's a saying that says, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. And what they mean by that is suffering difficult circumstances makes you stronger. But it's not entirely true. I would rather say what doesn't kill you has the opportunity for you to become stronger. Because a lot of people go through things and they don't become stronger. Why? Because they don't understand how to utilize the negative emotions. They don't know how to utilize negative happenings. And until you understand that there's power in negative emotion. It indicates something, it points you to something, it helps you evaluate something, and it shows you what needs fixing. Then you can use it for the power. So why do we have negative emotions? I'm going to give you a few points so that you can understand what negative emotions are for. Before I get there, I'm going to ask you to like, to subscribe, and share this video to other people. We really do want to go to 1,000 subscribers. So you pushing the subscribe button and sharing this video to other people and asking them to do it will really help us to get there. So why are negative emotions so important? So the first thing I want to give you guys is it signals that something is wrong. It's an indication. It's an indication that everything is not as okay as you want it to be, and it gives you an opportunity to go work on something. It also helps us to understand ourselves. It helps us to understand our values, our desires, and our boundaries. So if something is not aligned with our values, if something doesn't meet our desires, or if somebody or something oversteps our boundaries, our negative emotions gives us an indication of what is happening. Negative emotions are also powerful motivators for personal growth and personal development. It's in feeling the negative emotions, and it's in experiencing negative things that you can become motivated and to see in which areas you need growth and in which areas you need development. It's almost like, when you ask somebody who does gardening, why do you prune a tree? Pruning is basically cutting the tree. You prune the tree so that it can grow and so that it can develop. That's what negative emotions, that's what negative circumstances sometimes can do in our lives. It prunes us, but through the pruning, we can grow in and we can develop. It is fostering empathy and connection with others. So going through something helps you to connect with others who's going through something. It can help you counsel others that's going through something. It can help you motivate others who's going through something. Why? Because you have been through it in your life. Somebody has come to me, or many people actually come to me with things, and they say, listen, how can good come out of this? How can something positive come out of this? How can I use this to my advantage? And I always say to them, you know what? You can go to people who are also experiencing something similar, or who is also experiencing something, because the very fact that you've experienced something negative and that you went through a battle in your life and that you are growing through it gives you a voice to the people that are going through something. Because to be honest, people who don't go through anything, people who never have challenges, people who never have negative emotions, we don't really take advice from them, because we sometimes need somebody who has seen some things in life and who's grown through some things in life to advise us and to help us and to counsel us. And the final thing I want to say, it allows us to appreciate the positive. If everything is always positive and everything just works out and everything is great, you will never really appreciate it. Then the positive will just feel normal. It's in the arguments, it's in the disappointments, it is in the conflict, it's in those things that we can really value and appreciate when something positive is happening, when breakthroughs are happening, when things are going our way. So at the end of the day, we do need the positive and we do need the negative to live a healthy, good life. But what I want to advise you to do is, when you're dealing with positive things, or when you're dealing with negative things, well, even positive things, take a step back, evaluate it, ask yourself the question, what am I going to do with this? Because there can be a lot of power in negative emotions if you understand them and approach them right. Thank you so much for watching. We're looking forward to see you guys again from Mind Prosperity. We love you, and we'll see you soon again. Goodbye.